Are you sure that you have the correct stance for your golf swing? What's up, guys? Phil here with Average Guy Golf. In this video, we're going to discuss the 3 elements of your stance that you have to get right. I know this is something that many of us are getting wrong, so let's go ahead and jump into it right now. As I mentioned, there are 3 elements of your stance that we're going to be discussing in this video. Those elements are your posture, your distance from the ball, and your front to back alignment of the ball between your feet. The first thing we're going to talk about is your posture. And when I say posture, I'm mainly talking about the position of your back during your swing. Now there are a couple ways you can get this wrong. You can either have your back arched way too far forward, creating like a turtle shell, or what you see a lot of golfers try to do is instead of actually keeping their back straight, they overcompensate and arch their back the other direction. Now, not only does this look silly, but eventually if you continually golf like that, you're gonna hurt your back. Ideally, what you would be looking for is when you set up to the ball, rather than bending your back, you wanna take your stance and bend at the hips and keep your back in as straight of a line as you can. The next thing we're gonna talk about is your distance away from the ball. This is one big misconception that I see with a lot of golfers, and that is that you should be the same distance away from the ball regardless of the club that you're using. That's not actually the case. What you should be doing is setting your distance based on the end of the top of the club to your body. So you can see how this would come into effect. Right now I'm hitting a pitching wedge, which is obviously a much shorter club than a driver. When I line up for my driver, I hold the club way out here with my arms in front of my body, and this is just an uncomfortable position to hit this pitching wedge from. So what I like to do when I set up for my shots is I like to set the club behind the ball where I'm normally gonna hit it, and only grab the club with my top hand, so my left hand is a right-handed golfer. Then I set my feet, and I wanna keep my arms slightly touching the tops of my obliques, or my top fat roll, to be more accurate in my case. Then I add my bottom hand in the same position, and that gives me my position in terms of distance from the ball. So while my distance from the ball may change, this angle between the top of the club and my body should remain fairly constant, regardless of which club I'm using, because I'm trying to keep my arm, again, up against my fat roll in order to have a more consistent swing. I'll demonstrate this with another club. We'll try something longer. I don't have a driver in my bag, but we'll go with my 3-wood and see what that looks like. All right, so as you can see here, I'm set up with my 3-wood. I've got my top hand on the club head behind the ball, and what you can see is that the distance between the top of the club and my body should be pretty similar between what you're seeing here and what we just saw with the pitching wedge. And that'll give me the same general stroke that I had regardless of the club, even though this club is significantly longer than my pitching wedge. So to switch back to the pitching wedge for a second, the reason that your distance from the ball is so important is because it allows you to get the correct posture. If I line up with my pitching wedge out here like I'm hitting my 3-wood or my driver, my brain is naturally gonna take over the shot and I probably won't miss it. Instead, I will throw my shoulder around, or I will lunge forward and try and hit the ball, or do something along those lines, which is gonna generate a poor swing, and you're either gonna throw your back out or hurt your shoulders, or you're gonna start adjusting your swing plane, which will become a habit, and then it will impact your future shots. So you really wanna make sure that you're having a good distance control from the ball, as well as good posture. That way you don't develop bad habits. All right, so the final element I'm gonna talk about is the position of the ball between your feet. I'm gonna try to avoid talking about how the position of the ball between your feet impacts your swing, because this is part of a series on pre-swing fundamentals. If you'd like to check out the rest of the videos in that series, you can click on the YouTube card up here or up here. I'm not sure which side it's gonna be on. Anyway, you can click on the YouTube card and check those videos out. I've already done one on grip and one on alignment, and this is the 3rd part in that series. We're talking about stance. So what I really wanna emphasize, adjusting the ball's position between your feet doesn't actually correct your stance in the way that you might think that it does. We've all been taught when we started playing golf to align the ball in the center of our feet or on our front heel and all these types of tips that we've been given, but nobody ever explains to you that the ball's position on your feet doesn't matter. That is acting as a proxy for the ball's position on your shoulders. Now, if you think critically about this, you can easily come to this conclusion on your own, but no one does because we've all been taught how to play golf. The ball's position between your feet has no impact on where you hit the ball in your swing. It's all about where the ball lies in the rotation of your shoulders. So one of the things that I learned when I was looking up some information for this video, and shout out to Me and My Golf, they do a really good video on this. So after this video, you should go check their video out and get more tips from them if this is something you're really struggling with. But what I figured out was that If I align the ball in the center of my stance, but I lean my weight back, the ball is actually aligned on my front shoulder, no matter that it's aligned between the center of my feet. Similarly, if I scoot all the way back on the ball onto my left heel, but lean forward, it's the same as aligning the ball in the center of my stance. I didn't know this before I started looking up the information for this video because no one tells you. You just hear line the ball up in the center of your stance or line the ball up on your front foot. That doesn't actually change your alignment on the ball. But that doesn't give you a lot of help if you're trying to figure out how to align the ball in general. So if you're hitting a longer club, you want the ball to be further forward on your feet or on your body to be more realistic. Your middle range irons, your 4 or 5 iron, your longer woods, you want to be about in the center. And then for your 7, 8, 9 irons, stay in the center up to your pitching wedge. And then your sand wedges and lob wedges are gonna move a little bit further back, but not drastically. And I don't have a sand wedge or a lob wedge, so honestly, I can't give you good info on that. One more thing you may have noticed is that as the ball moves further forward in your stance, you tend to widen your stance, and similarly, as it moves further back in your stance, you may tend to shrink your stance or narrow it down a little bit. So if you want to hit your driver, for example, you may widen your stance up so that way the ball can be further forward and your body still be in balance. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you've watched up to this point, you might as well go ahead and hit the subscribe button because clearly you either forgot that it was running or you actually like the content. So hit the subscribe button as well. Additionally, please leave loads of comments. I've had 1 comment on all my videos so far. Despite like a couple hundred views. So please leave comments. I promise I'll respond to you. Let's build a little community here of people that suck at golf but are trying to get better and are having a good time doing it. Anyway, that's all for now. This has been Phil with Average Guy Golf. I'll catch you guys next time.